All right, let's do that. All right, so moving on.
Nice.
December 25th. So most people believe that it was actually put there because of the solstice, right? But the only time it was actually on December 25th was actually AD 45. So it doesn't even coincide. So you can't say that it was put there because of that.
When was his birthday?
Well, no one actually knows for sure. It's probably around December. I'm sorry, September.
A lot of people say
11.
September. Oh, some people say September.
But anyway, I do have an article.
All right.
So, in 2 paragraphs, the idea that the date was taken from the pagans goes back to 2 scholars from the late 17th and early 18th century. Paul Ernest Jablonski, a German Protestant, wished to show the celebration of Christ's birth on December 25th was one of the many, quote-unquote, paganizations of Christianity that the Church of the 4th century embraced as one of the many degenerations that transformed pure apostolic Christianity into Catholicism. Dom Jean Houdon, a Benedictine monk, tried to show that the Catholic Church adopted pagan festivals for Christian purposes without paganizing the Gospels. So there it goes. In the Julian calendar, created in 45 BC under Julius Caesar, the winter solstice fell on December 25th, and it therefore seemed obvious to Jablonski and Hardun that the must have had a pagan significance before it had a Christian one. But in fact, the date had no religious significance in the Roman pagan festival calendar before Aurelian's time, nor did the cult of the sun play a prominent role in Rome before him. So, as you can see, there is absolutely no connection to the paganization of December 25th, despite what people say. It was only 2 historians in the early days, well, 2 different times during Christianity that tried to claim it was paganization. Ironically, one of them was Protestant trying to go against the Catholic Church. That never happens anymore.
Cheap shot.
But there's no evidence whatsoever that it was because of the winter solstice or anything else. Go ahead, George. Go ahead.
Oh, jeez. Put the pressure on me. Well, they're saying what on that year of 45 BC, according to the Julian calendar, or whatever, winter solstice fell on December 25th that day. Mm-hmm. Other than that,
on 45, that's the only time it fell there.
It's winter solstice. It's named after the soul god,
yep.
or the sun god's soul.
Yeah.
Oh, there's there's some connection there.
Is there some connection? Because that's the only year that it happened, and it wasn't until 45 AD, and not ever after. So
right, but the first time, and people were stupid back then.
Were they? Were they, George? Were they really stupid?
All of them.
Because in Damascus, in the pre-Christine times, all right, they had already calculated the distance between the Earth and the Moon. They'd already found out about the circulation of blood in the body. So how stupid were they?
They found out the distance between the Earth and the Moon?
Yes. Yeah, they did. In Damascus. Yes, they did. They
but just by using math. I'm throwing the BS card
in
out
fact,
right now.
In fact, Aristotle had already calculated how wide the Earth was. He already knew it was a circle.
They thought the world was flat, Juice.
Nope, not Aristotle. No, he did not. Aristotle already knew that the Earth was round, and he already knew how round it was. But Google.
My mind's going in so many different directions right now. Like I don't even know where to go.
But he was probably on the fringe of that belief.
He was. But we're talking about what was Aristotle? What was it? 600 years before Christ, I believe, right?
600 BC.
Got right? Me. So we're talking about somebody who's pre, right? Jesus Christ. And he already understood that the Earth was round and understood the circumference of the planet.
Yeah, so he was a smart fellow. But to George's defense, there was still a lot of people who thought the Earth was flat.
It was also Archimedes. Archimedes also had the same idea.
But these were
in fact, was it Archimedes who said that he said, "Give me a lever and a place to stand, and I can move the world"? Well, he had already calculated the circumference of the planet.
But there were very rare people
That wasn't the common thought of the common people of the time.
But we are looking before there was modern technology,
Yes,
before
there
satellites, before they already knew the Earth was round.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in fact,
way ahead of their time. for
exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
So
But as far as the date is the 25th, does the Catholic Church think that the Western Church who celebrates the 25th? Are we, idolaters? Or?
So here's the irony of this. The irony of this is the reason why December 25th was chosen was because the Eastern Church and the Western Church had two different dates for Christ's birth.
Mm-hmm.
And so they met in the middle, which was December 25th.
The Catholic Church and who?
The Eastern, the Western Roman Church and the Eastern Church had two different dates for the birth of Christ. So they met in the middle, which was December 25th.
Did they compromise?
They did. They compromised and they made it December 25th because it was between the two calendars.
All right. So we're safe.
Yeah. So here's the cool thing. It was because it was between the calendars they compromised the date and put it in the middle instead of fighting about it. It had nothing to do with the pagan holiday.
All right. All right.
So it's not a pagan holiday.
No.
So we're arguing.
George
over that.
George is like, he set me up from the beginning.
I mean, I was neutral though. Like I'm here to learn. I don't know whether or not it's pagan origins or not. So I'm here to learn. I'm refuting that.
Yeah.
When I hear someone's living in a whale, I'm here to refute that. But that's not this episode. So let's move on, guys.
We'll tackle that in a future one. We'll do one. We'll do one on
strictly
presuppositions of the Old Testament.
I want to bring like a biologist, and I want to talk about how long someone could live inside
That'd be
a
fun
whale.
episode.
David Blaine has done it.
God bless him.
Oh, Lord.
So we know what we have to do.
I also
We
watched
have
him
to
walk
bring
on
in
water
David
just
Blaine.
like Jesus.
So contextually, it was actually a minnow.
A minnow? You just messing with me now?
Oh my Lord!
I'm just
I almost
kidding.
spit my beer.
No, I'm just playing with you. On that one. They said it was basically a large.
That would have been much more impressive.
Yeah.
So, how many people believe a man lived inside? How long did he live?
3 days.
How many people literally believe that as a truth?
Are you taking a vote?
Yeah, I want to vote.
Again, he was believed to
I'm
have been dead during that, according to
No,
Hebrew.
so- I just heard
Lord.
he lived 3 days. So that's, 72 hours inside a whale after being consumed. So Mike believes it?
I believe it.
I believe it.
I will concede that it can go either way.
That's so Catholic.
I
Aaron.
believe.
That's so Catholic.
I believe it could go either way because, like I said, according to Hebrew lore, he did die and was actually in the lower levels of Sheol during those 3 days. The text in Hebrew paints some hints towards that. So I could go either way on this one
So how did he undie?
because God let him come back to
Wow.
life. I mean,
So when the
Whoa.
if he can translate
the whale
Enoch
gave him
to heaven,
That's what I was thought.
just spit him up on the.
I thought it was something like.
But
that-
actually, one of the things that the reason why I do believe it, because I do believe that I serve a God of miracles.
No, there's no God of miracles.
I've had miracles.
Especially that. No, you haven't. Listen, then you know what? The people that were in the in the Twin Towers were praying way harder than you were for your knee. The people
Absolutely.
in the Titanic
I
that were
absolutely
drowning
agree with that.
and freezing to death were praying way harder than you were for your knee. There's no miracles. It doesn't I know what Juice believes it's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story. And me and Juice have had this out before. He believes that he was, praying for somebody, show me somebody, and then he met his wife.
Well,
Beautiful story. But I'm just saying there's so much more stronger convictions of prayer that could have been answered than your knee and your wife.
You're right, dude.
And,
I don't know. I don't
agree.
disagree.
And so why were the others ignored?
Nice, George. Pull the 9/11 card.
Pull a 9/11 out there.
All right,
right.
that does it.
So
okay.
that's how
9/11.
how we define.
So we made
miracles.
Landing on the moon. Let's go. No,
So-
I'm kidding.
Let's do it.
First of all,
Illuminati.
I think
Let's talk about that.
I think the whale's allegory, personally, in my opinion.
Thank you.
But I don't think that you can't pull truth from allegory. I think you can pull truth and valuable lessons from allegory. Number one point. Number two, though, there were some miracles on 9/11.
There were.
There were people who survived from like the 89th floor
Who shouldn't
all
have.
the way down.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what else to call that. I don't know what else to call that.
Yeah. I heard his testimony.
Freak in
It was
nature.
amazing.
Freak accident. Would you call that an accident? Luck.
Luck.
Okay, maybe you might be right. I don't know, but if that were me, I would call that a miracle.
It sounds nice. It sounds nice. I
would
want.
too.
It's a beautiful thing. Thinking, it's comforting. If you need it, it's comforting thinking someone's looking out for you and they protected you then. But it's probably not the truth. The truth was it was luck. You know, you had to, the people that lived. You know, that people were living under the rubble. Most of them were next to an appropriate column that had fell the right way. It just so
Wasn't the
happens that
89th
that's strong.
floor down?
Yeah, I was just going from another story. But I'm just saying there's probably a methodical scientific reason as to how he did.
I would agree with that for sure.
Could be.
Hard to explain, unlikely, that's why we consider it a miracle, but there's probably a reason. Where are we going?
I'm going to bring you.
So,
into-
Yeah, I don't know. You don't seem to have a leg to stand on. How can you say that?
I'm going to bring
What?
you into the
God doesn't answer prayers, and there's no miracles.
Gumby and I have talked
Yeah,
about
that's
this before.
a
We
stupid
You have
statement.
no faith.
Yeah.
There's you have no science
There's no
behind
faith.
that
There's
either.
no faith
So you
involved.
can't say there's no
nothing.
science behind
There's
miracles.
nothing science in between like what you guys are talking about.
But that's
though.
what I'm saying. You're fighting something you don't believe with a statement that has no legs. You
What do you
can't say, "Hey, there's no scientific evidence that a miracle
so we're
happened."
gonna get into that argument now. It's like, well, you can't disprove me. Like,
No.
is that where we're
But
going
you
right
can't-
now?
I'm saying-
But you can't prove it either.
What I'm saying
But-
is you can't poo-poo me, and then you don't really have anything better. But what I'm saying is I don't think you've considered everything. Like the person that wasn't healed, the person that did die in the tower, who's better off, me or them? How do you know? You can make the argument that they're way better. They're in perfection now. I'm not.
It's true.
You think of death totally different than I think of death.
Touche.
Death is not the end. Our physical death is not the end.
Well, when we die, we just go into nothing.
Well, many of us believe
It's a
there's
nice.
higher
It's
state.
a beautiful. Listen, it's very comforting, guys. And I
It's-
hope I'm wrong.
it's deeper
It's
than
very
comfort.
comforting thinking, oh gosh, if I'm good and I die, I'm gonna be greeted by like my family members, and it's gonna be beautiful. But I mean, it's a beautiful story to tell your kids at night, so they're more comfortable. But that's not the truth.
Well, in your thoughts.
But
in your
how
thoughts.
do you know that?
You're right. You're right.
But how do you
None of
know
us have
that?
died
We don't
here,
know
so
that.
none of
we
us
don't
know.
know that.
But you're right.
But I do know people where their relatives have visited them after their death.
Not yet.
I do.
It's
I do.
just so
In
close,
fact,
man.
one of the people I know isn't even a believer, and his father has come to visit him.
No, that's what you're saying. Yeah, right. It is like what with the person that was picked up the $5 outside the gas station or
No,
whatever.
that's somebody else. That's somebody else.
Like,
That's actually somebody else. That's Rick, actually. You
is
know-
that your story?
No.
Oh.
That's somebody else. No, the $5 story, that's Rick. My neighbor. We'll have to bring him up for that story. It's a really good story. Pretty cool.
Well, science was really, it's not supposed to prove those kind of things either way.
And science would tell you that too. It's
It's
not meant to prove or disprove spirituality.
But my point of view is that the burden of proof is to the one who makes the biggest claim. If you're making the claim, then you're the one who has to show the burden of proof, not the person who says, we don't really believe that.
How many people, had tumors that doctors are trying to cure, or, they come in and then they're gone, and science can't explain it, And I know what you're going to say. I'm not asking you to say, well, that's stupid to just say, can't explain it, it's God. You can say that. But why not open your mind to the possibility even? As much as you may judge me for saying like I don't believe in homosexuality and you think that's closed-minded.
He went there, not me.
Don't you? And I do believe. All right, so I do believe. I do believe in homosexuality, but I don't believe it should be the way it is in this world. And I'm just saying there, like you will look at me and disagree and say I'm closed-minded. I'm opinionated in that fact, right? Well, don't you think it's hypocritical for you to say these same things back if there's a possibility? I feel like.
So you're saying there's a chance? It's not grounded though. It's just not a grounded thought. It's not grounded on, like, when you make a claim like that, it's not grounded on premises of things that we understand to be real, understands laws of physics and stuff like that. You're like, well, take everything that we know, throw that to the side, and just put your faith in this book.
Well, some stuff I've learned in science class, totally fake. Stuff now, the world has come and said, oh, yeah, sorry, we screwed up. You know what I mean? So
it's a beautiful thing when that happens, though.
So are you going to put your faith...
It's a beautiful thing when that happens.
It is. I love the truth.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, science can be wrong, but like, they admit it.
There are verifiable miracles. Like scientifically verifiable miracles.
Yeah, but he's not allowing for that. Like, because then it's a cop-out because science can't explain it yet. You know? And I feel like that's just... And you're a very emotional person, and I feel like there's really no difference. You know, like you're not. My differences from you aren't really a difference of science or not. We just have different emotions. Like you're very emotional, and death hits you hard. You know, like you think there's this sadness, and you don't like it. You know what I mean? But that's your grounds. That's what you're standing on. That's not scientific.
You're right. None of us has died, so none of us know.
But we know people that have died.
What's that?
We know people have died, and you just hear stories of people, strangers that have died, and you're emotionally reacting based on your feelings, you know? And it's not scientific.
Were we
That's
talking about their
empathy.
deaths, or we were talking about their unlikely survival in a situation, and whether that was a God intervention of God?
If you want to talk, yeah, I widen the subject to your take on like God in general through history, on him being a vindictive being. But if you just want to talk miracles, it's the same thing. I mean, I didn't pray for my leg and it happened, and I can see how, gosh, that's heathen compared to somebody who was probably praying really hard. They had a dedication before 9/11 hit, and they were praying for the family, and the family's waiting for dinner, and they didn't show up that day, and now their kids are home, and then their mom dies of cancer from all the 9/11 stuff in the air. That's crappy, you know, but that doesn't make my leg less of a miracle. I didn't believe in my leg. Hell, it might make it more of a miracle because I was so skeptical. Now, why did God choose to heal my leg? Only he really knows. I could guess. But it's still a miracle. Just because we can't fathom it.
It doesn't make you any better than anybody else.
It doesn't. It humbled me, and it makes me realize we'll never understand God. He's too huge. We can't. Like, you think you can capture his thoughts in your brain, but you're awesome. But you're not that awesome.
I feel like I hate that we'll never understand God because he's too high of.
I love it. I love it.
So I hate that, and just because, again,
Socrates, the logos. Right?
When I think about it, if I were in the same shoes as this, of God,
I know you say it a lot.
How much clearer and how much better things would be. We wouldn't be having this argument if I were God.
You would probably smite me.
That would make you God.
I wouldn't smite you. It would be
you
inescapable.
Would just force my brain.
This conversation wouldn't be happening because I'd make it inescapable.
Exactly. You take away my free will.
No. Why is that even a thing though? Like I could be in here. I could make myself present. Okay, let's just say I'm God now.
Because I would be a robot, a computer. I'd be nothing more.
No, well, I mean, if you're saying there's divine intervention is what you're saying, so he really can at any time intervene is what you're saying. So that's a possibility. So you are kind of a robot in that respect. He can just kind of pull the strings at any moment. All right. But again, I'm just saying, like, we're so wide scoped right now. So, I feel you, Mike, where you were like, I'm trying to make my point. I'm like, we were like going so many directions right now, and I'm like trying to funnel it back down. So I feel you. So
I hear you.
So when I was throwing some jabs out there earlier, I feel you now. I'm trying to bring it back around. Yeah, my mind's going 1,000 different directions.
I'm enjoying it.
Well, thank you, Juice. Give me a point. Sorry, Mike. Give me a point. What was I discussing right now?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, right. It's really big. It's really big. We're going too big. We're going too big. We're all over the place. I'm just saying again, like, all right. So we was talking about making yourself present. Okay, yeah. So if I'm saying if I was God and I made myself present, inescapable, like this person's a higher being in control of things in my destiny after life. Like you could still have free will, but I could still make that notion, that concept, known. And make this conversation that we're having about whether I exist or not, I can make it disappear.
Yeah.
Because, hey, we know this has happened,
And
I can play by these rules, or I cannot. So I feel like you still have that free will by clearly demonstrating that this is what it is.
I think in a finite mind, I could see how that's possible. But again, you would also not allow sadness. And you would not allow pain and suffering, right?
What's wrong with that, though?
We
Is it a
don't
bad
know.
thing?
Take it away. How empty would you feel? I
You
would
mean
not.
being happy all the time?
I would not let myself be sad. I wanted to be happy all the time for 20 years. Funerals would happen. I would go in denial. I let myself mourn a friend's death. I saw a new definition of beauty. She died when she was 30-something years old of this heart condition, left her family. To me, to experience that, how close I was to her, and I didn't even know how close I was to her, and the bond that they created between me and her family, it was a beauty I'd never known.
It's interesting you say that. There's a book, an audio book I'm going through right now. Don't let your kids listen to it. Lots of cussing and stuff, but it's called Lock and Key, and it's a fictional story and about this house that has multiple rooms with specialized keys that you can go through and it'll alter your states. Some of the keys will turn you into animals, and one key opens your brain. But it's interesting because the one girl, she ends up, when they open her brain, she pulls out her emotions to cry and her emotion of fear, and it affects her so far all the way through the rest of the story. And she ends up getting to a point where she's like, God, I wish I could cry, and she can't. So it's very interesting that it even echoes, where you get to a certain point. What if you didn't have those emotions?
I went through life without those emotions.
You'd be completely happy, and you'd never be sad.
You wouldn't even know it. You wouldn't even know it.
Yeah.
Like,
You think?
you would be empty.
You're right. I get what you're saying. One of my favorite song lyrics, I feel like what you're connecting me with is like, you don't know peace until you've had suffering. Like, so it kind of makes a deeper appreciation for things. But again, if you've never had, like, you just be like, again, we're eliminating sadness. So we're saying there's no sadness.
Yeah, so think of
You
a
can appreciate
think
being
of a-
happy, but like you're happy. So like,
But think of a
you might
rainbow.
might not be really happy, but
Think of a
You're not
rainbow
sad.
or any spectrum that you're interested in, but I'll use rainbow. You're saying eliminate a couple colors of the rainbow. We wouldn't have never known they weren't there, and they've seemed fine. We never saw the fullness of the rainbow. Like, it sounds great, but I think God wants more than that for us. And we just sometimes are stubborn and can't trust him that it's better this way.
right, I know. I feel like that for like the woman that was like gang raped on that bus in India. Like, totally. Now she understands happiness.
But can
Not
we?
at a level I do.
But can we
If she gets past
experience
that,
that rainbow
Here?
in the full spectrum of human emotions outside of religious Christianity?
I could not have. Without God,
You cannot have,
right.
but can it be done?
I can't speak for others. I can't judge others. And
I
I can't
think-
speak
That's honest.
I
That's
think
honest.
that's where other religions, people like Gandhi would say, but just we all need to have our minds open a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe we can.
Yeah. I would have, I would
Because
have
I-
ran to friends and family.
The
and-
Christianity that I knew and grew up with stifled my emotions.
I could see that because, you and I have a similar background,
Yeah.
so I could see that.
Well,
Yeah.
this was a
Plus, you gotta be
scripture.
okay with incest and like mass murder.
Hey,
It'd be okay.
wasn't from West Virginia.
But
I'm
to
just-
kind of we There's a big rabbit trail.
I know. That's where me and Mike are struggling.
Yes,
I was kind of poking at him, and then I fell into the same thing. Yeah, we're all over the place, so it's hard to kind of funnel.
George and I are gonna spin off our own show.
How long was Jonah in the whale?
Yeah, right. That's
All right,
what
good,
he's
Steve.
drawing.
That's good. The big claims, the big things.
Yeah.
I always feel like the burden of proof is for the people who make those claims to provide the burden of proof, and not for the skeptics to say, "Well, you can't prove that it's skeptic because prove that it's wrong." That's not fair. You're the one making the initial claim. But let me ask you this, George:
Yeah, I'm listening.
do you believe in the moon landing?
Oh,
I'm gonna say yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. But I love one. That's awesome. You know what? I'd love to get if this wasn't a religious based podcast. I'd love to get juice down that rabbit hole.
We could definitely do that
but
in a future episode. Be fun. Because that parlays into flat Earth, and flat Earth definitely parlays into religion. So we could definitely be.
Oh, what I'm saying is that there are people who legitimately believe that there are a lot of holes within the government's official story about the moon landing.
yeah.
But it's not those people who made the initial claim that, hey, we went to the moon. It's for real. This is the story. This is the official line. Therefore, it happened. Anyone who questions it is a skeptic and is a crazy person. That's what you are now with Christianity, right?
Interesting. Yeah. No. Ooh. That was a good hard-hitting point you got there, Gumby. I like that. But again, I like the connection with science.
Mm-hmm.
I like the connection with tangible evidence and beings that I could connect with. But yeah, no, that's an excellent point. But and also going back, I don't think I'm and I was raised Catholic. I was baptized Catholic, and I initially started off, just ignorantly accepting religion and Catholicism and Christianity and stuff like that, and it wasn't until later. So I think, if anything, I have like a real open mind. I could be sold on it if there was a way for you to prove through like tangible, relatable evidence. I'd be all about it. You're right. You don't.
I do.
You don't.
But
you
first,
have someone living in a whale for 3 days.
But first,
I found a story in 1900s of a guy who was dissected out of a whale and lived.
No, you didn't.
there you go.
Yeah, 3 sailors.
First, the burden of proof is on 12 Dogs, because this beer's name sums
right,
up the idea of bringing the best together to
Your
celebrate.
segues are so
It
good
is
today.
filled with seasonal flavors from generous amounts of toasted and caramel malts mixed with equally generous amounts of honey, cinnamon, ginger, and nutmeg. We feel it is the perfect libation filled with flavors of the season. It is an ABV of 8.3 and an IBU of 17.
Ooh, there's a
Holy smokes.
doozy. Yeah, it's like a honey color.
Looks like we're going flat Earth.
There we go.
Oh. You're drinking something. All right.
But I think one of the things that I probably share with this is that we have our own personal, because we do believe Christianity is a very personal faith. And
Smell that.
I
we'll
get it.
talk about the beer first.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You're right. Good point. Good point.
Intro.
I actually first tasted this season at Applebee's. My wife and I went out for a
Ooh,
night.
this is very spicy.
And and it's nice. It's got this nice spicy flavor. It's not quite an amber. It's a little darker.
Yeah, I love
it's a
the
little
color.
darker than that. But I find it delicious.
I do think this is my number one of the three, actually.
Right?
It's kind of between.
Yeah, it's right in between. It's a good happy marriage.
Yeah, it's not
Not
like
Not too
it's
hard, not too
dark.
soft.
Number two for me. I like the first one.
Okay.
It's not quite a Mike. It's not quite a George. It's kind of a Gumby.
Kind of Gumby. There you go.
Well then, take that as a compliment.
But I would say probably one of the things that we're kind of all talking about, we're all alluding to as well, is that we talk about our own personal experiences.
So good.
And then what we've experienced as that what we claim as Christianity as our faith, and the things that we have experienced in those things that they're not written in a book. They're not, and I think that those are very personal to us. and you haven't experienced some of those things, or you're not allowed yourself to be experienced those things because you're so hung up on facts, and which is okay.
Right, and I do think,
And I really
God,
appreciate that
fish
because
rod.
you know that challenges me too,
Which is a
And-
good thing.
which is a good thing. It's a
Right.
very good thing.
I do try to keep my my intellectual mind ahead of my emotional mind.
And that's I mean
Yeah.
that's great. I mean it's super. I mean I wish that a lot of more Christians would do that.
That's actually why I want you on. We're coming up. We're going to do a Marian apparitions episode.
Is that going to be with the Illuminati and the lizard people?
No, that's going to be on the Flat Earth episode.
All right.
It's the same thing.
No, with the Marian apparitions episode, it's cool because there's so much hard evidence. Like, for example, you have Our Lady of Fatima. So when she appeared there, you had 100,000 people present, including journalists, most non-believers, and they were present and witnessed it. And then you have things like Our Lady of Guadalupe, which exists to this day. To this day, you can go see it, and it should have dissolved over 500 years ago, and it's still here. You have Our Lady of Las Lajas, which that image goes through 3 feet of stone. There's no pigments present. Nobody understands why it exists, and yet it's in stone. So these are hard miracles, hard evidences.
Are we
So-
replacing unlikely or hard to believe with miracle?
Okay, again, if you have somebody's image in stone that goes through at least 3 feet, how is that possible?
We do have to define miracle. I guess we could all define what a miracle is for ourselves. I mean, because to Steve's point, when you make something personal, I guess anything can be a miracle.
But I mean, when things that happen, I just slate it as something that it's extraordinary. It's very, you can't explain it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and that defines as a miracle to me.
It's
And it
something-
could be something scientific that happened. There could be, I wouldn't rule that out, on certain things.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah,
thing is I do appreciate you a lot because you know what
Amen.
you caused me to really dig really deep in my own self to what I really believe in. And you know what? And a lot of it does sound, it does sound cockamamie. And I'll be really honest with you. Like the whale story is a great example of that. It's just physically not possible.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that you read in the scriptures that are physically just not possible, but they happen.
Right.
And so either you choose to believe it or not. But those stories, when you look at them, it talks about a belief in a God of the impossible. And that's where you got to come to grips with that personally yourself, whether you accept that or not, and even if you don't accept it, because you don't accept it for obvious reasons, because it's not logical.
Right.
And it's not. And I totally agree. It's not logical, but I accept it because of who he is.
Yeah, and I would think on the
So
other
is it-
side of that, people accept something because they want it. And if I want something, self-determination can help get you there too, right?
Right.
I mean, there have been situations in my life where I wanted something and I didn't know how I was going to get it, or I didn't know how I was going to get there, or out of this place or whatever. And yet I found myself in a better situation.
Yeah.
Do I call it a miracle? I don't know. I mean, I know at that time I was very focused. I was very self-determined. I was very willful to get myself out of a situation. I heard a pastor say this, and I hate religious cliches. I hate them. I don't ever say them.
Let's hear him.
But this one, here goes this one. Without God, we cannot. But without us, God will not. So, I think our will does play a part in what maybe we define miracles or not.
Well, I know that Buzz Aldrin considered a miracle when he landed on the moon.
Yeah, I think that's a huge miracle. I believe the whale won before that one. But
We need to define miracle.
Maybe it's personal. I'm sure there's a dictionary to look up, but mine is divine. You know, I like.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think when I'm using the word miracle, I'm saying I'm also using it in terms of divine intervention of some sort.
yeah.
But like, I just feel like, oh gosh, and we've talked about so much, and the scope is so confusing, and I feel bad for anybody listening. But I just feel like sometimes, we're also. I feel like there were some instances where we were, talking about unlikely, or
Some broad brush strokes for sure.
yeah.
Like how well balanced the spear is by 12 Dogs. It's absolutely amazing.
It is good.
It's so well balanced. It has that nice strong flavor, but at the same time it's not overpowering. It's just fantastic. You could catch the honey notes inside of it, a little bit of nutmeg, just the right amount of cinnamon. It's just about perfect.
And also 12 Dogs before like the big craft brew craze. I feel like this was like one of the stronger beers. Like a couple years ago, you were like, "Oh man, I got some 12 Dogs." That was like the big thing. Yeah, right.
Well, that was the original brewer from Great Lakes. He went on to start his own place.
Oh, we broke off.
There you have 12 Dogs.
I didn't
know that.
Yeah. So that's why.
Only you would know that, Aaron.
I do love my craft brews. But yeah, he went on to assist in the formation of 12 Dogs, and that's why it has that nice, strong, well-balanced flavor like the original Great Lakes had.
It's good.
Not that Great Lakes is bad. I love Great Lakes.
Me too.
Right? And I love the reinvention of their new recipes. But this does taste a lot more like the original Great Lakes Christmas ale. So.
There you go. I would agree with that.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I like it.
I know. I've had so many Christmas beers, I forgot about the Christmas ale.
I think today's version's stronger, at least more potent in flavor.
I'll tell you what, this year's, and we should probably have it on next episode, but this year's ale I thought was better than last year's. I thought this year's was better than last year's.
For Great Lakes?
Yeah.
Is it their honey?
No, they're
Christmas ale.
ale. I thought year's was better than last year's.
But he had a lot of time to perfect it.
I don't feel like their batches are always consistent.
But then again, that you do end up with that with craft brews.
Yeah.
So
they need a miracle.
That's what they need.
Hey, they got control of the market.
They need to pull a man out of a whale after 3 days.
So, to my Christian brethren here, can other religions out there have their own legitimate miracles?
Absolutely.
I believe so.
How?
Well, I think God works miracles is not just Christians.
The jealous God is creating miracles for people that don't believe in him?
Elaborate.
Yeah, well, good. Because he sees the full picture. So by keeping me alive or whatever when I'm supposed to die, because I'm probably going to do something for his purpose, even before I'm Christian, I think it could work. I don't think he has to live in the box that we create. We create the brand of Christianity. Someone on an island who, like George was saying earlier, truly believes in the best things, accidentally worships the same God I worship, from education. But if they somehow communicated with this divine being, they might not call themselves Christians. We created Christianity, in that box. So why would God be
that's interesting.
Confined in a box?
It's also very Catholic of you.
I was raised Catholic. I have nothing against. I'm non-denominational, truly.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So I was raised Catholic. I when I stumbled on my relationship with God, it secured me in that, and it opened up a lot of things. I don't have to be dogmatic,
But what about the person who's non-religious at all, who knows that they need to go somewhere in life, gets there through self-determination,
right,
and ends up at that place?
Ends up at what place? Are we still talking about a miracle happening for them?
They don't define it as a miracle. We do.
Oh, I I don't know. I think God uses miracles. Like a miracle wouldn't.
That's what we define it as a label. But what if he just calls it a goal?
Oh no! See, I think it has to be something
Miraculous.
It has to be something that like
what if-
flashes
Supernatural.
Like, whoa, this is crazy.
Something you defined as a miracle. What if another person defines that in their own life, the very same thing that you're going through, but doesn't use the term miracle, and gets to the same place that you got?
And you know what I like is like maybe what's if it's like you were saying Buzz Aldrin called it a miracle, but what's if like the guy, the math whiz on the ground that was doing the numbers, like you're right, it was a goal. It wasn't a miracle. It was just a goal. Like it was just to him. It wasn't a miracle. It was everything fell in line like it should have.
Well, I think this is an easy one. I think like Jesus made miracles happen to people. Why did he do that? To show God. So if God's not showing in that, then it's not a real miracle.
Well, yeah, but miracles like that do not happen with us every day in life that we call miracles today.
Why'd they
right?
stop doing that?
I would not call anything a miracle.
but
Like I very
sometimes
rarely use the word
those-
miracle.
Sometimes those things do.
That's good to know.
Happen now.
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, because
I totally agree.
we call something. I mean, I don't know. I prayed for my dad not to die, but he died.
Yeah.
But to him, he felt like leaving this earth and being present with Christ was still a miracle.
I prayed to hit the lottery ticket, but
So-
it didn't happen.
And I felt like,
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. That's gray for
Yeah.
me. I don't know.
I
Not a miracle.
everything that I
Yeah.
knew in the way I was brought up with religion said, he's going to be all right. We're going to pull through this. If he's determined, if he's,
I see what you're
if we
saying.
pray hard enough, if we do all the right things, but yet it still didn't happen. I think we're just there is gray area.
I see where you're going with that because it's like, are you enforcing your own will over what the miracle's supposed to be?
It's a miracle. What's a miracle?
Yeah. So, like, for example, like you're saying, like for you, it would be your father healing and being here, but maybe for your father, it was passing on to the next life.
Yeah, right.
So maybe our presupposition of what a miracle is supposed to be is actually not what it's supposed to be because that's our opinion of what it's supposed to be.
And I get that. I totally already get that. I mean, for him, his soul being reconciled with the Creator was more important than his physical body on earth. Because, I got to be honest, though, at that point, my dad knew that the damage he'd done to his body was irreversible. So it's easier to accept the soul being reconciled.
Yeah. I can see that.
I do know when I die, and we all find out the truth. I hope there's a podcast room just like this, and we're here, and we can all be like, "I told you so," like whatever, so that we can literally iron out who was right.
That is the most spiritual thing you've ever said.
I just heard a miracle.
I would love that day.
Yeah, I just, I'm like, I teleport.
And what if you-
like, George's been waiting
And
for
what
you.
if that happens when we have the podcast and it turns out we were right?
Yeah.
That goes back to what
George, you got it by the
right?
skin of your teeth.
There's no right or wrong at the end.
We all get in by the skin of our
You know what?
teeth.
That's like both Heiser has said this and I've heard Pre say this. It's amazing because I see on both sides now. It's really cool where they're like, when we get there, we'll find out that all of us were wrong.
Yeah.
They're not going to be looking for George saying, "Ha!" And then George will be like, "Well, I'm here with you.
Yeah. Right.
Let's go have a beer."
We'll be like that. We'll be like that picture
I
with
want
the guy
Jesus'
with
wine.
the burnt around him, the singeing, the steam coming off you. Yep, we just made it.
Go get into D-League.
So our takeaway from tonight is definitely that yes, there is cultural appropriation that happens across every continent, country, and time. All right, but it does not affect that the Christmas tree actually isn't pagan, and that that December 25th wasn't actually pagan either. All right, these are presuppositions that are superimposed. I'll actually link some of the cool peer-reviewed articles, and yeah, that's my takeaway along with these awesome holiday brews. But let's go around the table. George.
Merry Christmas to everybody, and hope everyone has a safe and happy holidays with their family.
Gumby.
Yeah, same here. Merry Christmas, and there's nothing taboo over brew.
Mike.
Well said, George. Have a good night, everybody.
Steve.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and have a great new year. Bible Lover Brews, don't forget to catch us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. We're on every podcast platform I know of at this time. So hit us up on Facebook. Our Facebook group is growing massively. So see you online. Have a good night.